Murder She Played, MSP, Ági2, Part 8. Profs Indiana Jones and Namibian Cybele Stone. Sunny I sat tiresome while Prof and the young couple talked. He thought about the scenes of the murder and the strange placement of the little knife with the dwarf elephant. He let Prof to speak while he was gambling about the killer's catch. Prof adored the adventurous stories and films, and he and Gabba knew that he liked to create short stories. Prof had a new one to tell them. The Stone of Cybele, a pre-wedding date or the dinner at the Upper East Side Bistro was expensive, the wine was breathing, and Mutt Williams was wondering if he could survive 48 more hours of wedding prep without leaping into the Hudson River. Across from him, Henry Jones Jr., the world's least retired archaeologist, was staring intensely at a bowl of linguine as if it held the secrets of the Dead Sea Scrolls. "Dad. You're doing the thing again," Mutt said, waving a breadstick. "I am solving a global conspiracy instead of eating face. We have a rehearsal dinner tomorrow. Marion will kill us both if you're a zombie." Indy didn't look up. He was muttering, his fork hovering midair. Amateurs. All of them. Hitler was looking for relics of God and kings, but he missed the physics. They were so close. The Hober, the iron, it was right under their noses in the Grootfontein district. "Dad, it's 1990," Mutt sighed. "The wall is down. The Soviets are falling apart. The Cold War is catching a cold. Can we just focus on the seating chart?" Suddenly, Indy's eyes snapped wide. He dropped the fork with a clatter and reached into his tweed jacket, pulling out a brick-sized Motorola cellular phone. He began punching buttons with aggressive precision. "We're going to Namibia," Indy barked into the receiver before it even reached his ear. "Marcus, no, wait, Marcus is right. Salah. Salah, get the plane ready. Namibia." Mutt hissed. "The wedding is in 2 days. What happened to the Holy Grail? What happened to the Ark?" Indy leaned across the table, his voice a low, gravelly rasp. "They were distractions, Junior. The Third Reich was superstitious, but they weren't superstitious enough. They were looking for magic, but they ignored the Stone of Cybele . A meteoric iron mass so pure it doesn't just hold history, it holds a frequency. The old Nazis in Bonn aren't letting Namibia go because of politics, they're waiting for the extraction. If that meteorite reaches Germany, they won't need an army. They'll have the ultimate conductor." Mutt looked at his watch. Then he looked at his father's crazed, yet strangely energized expression. The prospect of choosing flower arrangements for another 6 hours or chasing a Nazi occult space rock through a desert during a decolonization war wasn't even a contest. 2 days, Dad, Mutt said, standing up and grabbing his leather jacket. "We have 48 hours to save the world and get back before the IDOS. If we're late, Marion isn't going to use a whip, she's going to use a rolling pin. She'll understand," Indy muttered, already heading for the door. "Probably." Windhoek, Namibia. 18 hours later, the heat hit them like a physical blow as they stepped off a rattling cargo plane. The country was vibrating with the energy of its brand new independence, but in the shadows of the Kalahari, the ghosts of the German Empire were restless. So Mutt shouted over the roar of a beat-up Land Rover engine. "The plan is to steal a 5-ton meteorite from a group of neo-occultists and fly it out before your future daughter-in-law realizes I'm not at the tuxedo fitting." "Roughly," Indy yelled back, adjusting his fedora. "The Hober meteorite is too big to move, but the heart of it, the Cybele fragment, is detachable if you know where to strike the crystalline fault line. The Germans figured it out in 1938 but couldn't get the equipment there. Now, with the Soviet influence waning, they've sent a geological team from Bonn to finish the job. They skidded to a halt behind a ridge overlooking the Hober site. Below them, a fleet of black Mercedes G-wagons surrounded the massive, rusted hunk of space iron. Men in grey tactical gear were setting up a sonic drill. "Look at that," Indy whispered, peering through binoculars. "They aren't digging. They're tuning it." Dad Mutt pointed toward a group of men unloading crates. "They have Uzis. We have a whip and a very expensive roaming bill on that phone." "Don't be cynical, it's bad for the digestion," Indy said, sliding down the dunes. "Follow my lead. We create a distraction, swap the frequency modulator, and grab the stone." The Great Escape. What followed was a blur of classic Jones-style chaos. There was a fist fight on top of a moving drill rig, a providential explosion involving a leaked fuel line, and Indy using his whip to snag a briefcase containing the glowing, metallic heart of Cybele just as the sonic drill reached a glass-shattering crescendo. "Run, Junior!" Indy yelled as the ground began to hum with an eerie, extraterrestrial vibration. They dived into the Land Rover just as the geologists realized their prize was bouncing away across the scrubland. "We're going to make it." Mutt laughed, flooring the accelerator while dodging a hail of gunfire. "We can catch the red-eye from Cape Town." "Check the time," Indy shouted. Mutt glanced at his watch. "Oh, no." The wedding day. St. Jude's Church, Manhattan. The organist was playing a nervous rendition of Standard Wedding Processional No. 1 for the third time. The bridesmaids were whispering. The bride, a radiant but increasingly lethal-looking woman, was tapping her foot so hard it was threatening to dent the floorboards. The guest list, mostly New York socialites and aging archaeology professors, were already half drunk, having spent the previous night partying in Greenwich Village. They didn't seem to mind the delay. Suddenly, the back doors burst open. Indy and Mutt tumbled in, covered in red Kalahari dust, smelling of aviation fuel and ancient iron. Mutt's tuxedo was torn at the shoulder, and Indy was clutching a heavy, burlap-wrapped object that hummed faintly. "Sorry. Traffic." Indy wheezed, leaning against a pew. The bridge was out. In Johannesburg. Marion stepped out from the vestry, crossing her arms. She looked at the dust, the torn clothes, and the crazed glint in Indy's eyes. She then looked at the burlap bag. "Did you save the world, Henry?" she asked dryly. "The fourth reek is currently stuck in a Namibian ditch with a very confused customs official," Indy panted, tipping his hat. "And we have a very lovely, very heavy paperweight for the gift table." Mutt rushed to the altar, smoothing his hair. "I'm here. Let's get married before the Soviets regroup." As the ceremony finally began, the stone of Cybele sat quietly in the back of the church. It didn't grant world domination, but for the first time in centuries, it was exactly where it belonged, part of a story that no one would ever believe.